So last week we played a little Corey Burkhart Grixis. Had pretty good results. Went 5-1. One of the videos didn't work, so still counting that in my overall record. But this week we're trying a new Grixis deck, a little tap out strategy based on Goblin Dark Dwellers. And I say based on, even though there are only 2 copies, because it's modern and 5-mana sorcery speed spells are really expensive. But I think Dark Dwellers is worth it. There's a lot of cool stuff going on. Dark Dwellers with K-Command is obviously pretty good. It's not changing the preview card. There we go. Anger of the Gods is pretty nice also, which just happens to be like a very good card in the format. I'm only playing 1 main deck. Maybe that's wrong. I don't know. And then Ancestral Vision, which is obviously a great card in the format. So I'm only playing 3 Ancestrals. This is not a great Ancestral deck, I think, because the curve is kind of high, at least for our finishers and whatnot. We are very much a tap-out deck, so I think Ancestral works better with counter spells than discard spells, but the fact that Ancestral works really well with Dark Dwellers, and we have things like Thought Scour and Jace Rinse Prodigy to actually put the Ancestral in the graveyard, I think makes it a little bit better. And I think Ancestral is still like passable. It is just not at its best in a home like this. So we have the very usual Serum Visions, a couple Thought Scours, a few Thought Scours, I guess. This deck is very much a tap-out deck, so I have Inquisition instead of more counter spells. Apparently Inquisition's not in my collection, that's just a lie. The normal removal spells, Lightning Bolt, Terminate, K-Command, Anger of the Gods, and like I said last week, I like having a black removal spell in my deck, so I have a Slaughter Pact, which I think is really good with both Kalitas and Dark Dwellers. The second Tassiger was the last card I cut. I basically didn't want a bunch of this column right here, a bunch of these fat things that basically only kill my opponent, so I did cut a Tassiger even though I have 3 Thought Scours. Basically, I want Scour for Snapcaster Mage and Kolaghan's Command and Dark Dwellers, so I think it is good enough. It's also rock solid with Jace, you know, so it's possible I should go down to 2 Thought Scours, maybe just like play a 24th land instead, but I don't know. So I have 3 Jace and 2 Snapcasters. I feel like that's reasonable. Deck could also just have 4 Jaces, but I feel like you kind of only really want to draw 1. And I do want access to some Snapcasters, and I didn't want a bunch of like flashbacky stuff between Jace, Snapcaster, and Dark Dwellers. And Snapcaster like also kind of belongs in this column in that it is kind of expensive, so we're kind of lower on those effects than we normally would be. Mana base is 23 lands. Since this deck has 4 and 5s, we don't have any Scars lands. There are no Blackleaf Cliffs or Dark Slick Shores. We do have 2 Sulphur Falls to go with the Anger of the Gods and the Dark Dwellers, and 1 Drowned Catacomb to go with the Kalitases. Also have some Tar Pits, so you have like a mix. Like the fetch dual like basics are basically, you know, going to be pretty even among our colors, and then I have some duals that are blue-red and some duals that are blue-black. I also have a Miser's Cavern of Souls, basically just because I want to try it out. I want to see if Cavern, along with like Jace and maybe Dark Dwellers, Kalitas, would be good in blue mirrors, although I haven't played a lot of blue mirrors on Magic Online, so maybe Cavern will be kind of useless, but we'll see. As for the sideboard, last week I was really missing having some Thoughtseizes, so I have a couple this week. I also think Thoughtseize just works well with this deck's game plan. And I like having Thoughtseize against decks that are trying to play spells that Inquisition does not hit, so things like Ad Nauseam or Tron. And to kind of combo with those, I have some Surgical Extractions, which I have tried before and have been pretty solid. I'm generally not a huge Surgical Extraction fan, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of the combo decks are kind of tough matchups, and Surgical gives you a way to just like KO them. For example, if you Surgical a Tron land, I think that is phenomenal. So to that end, we also have some Boom Busts, which can actually kill a land on turn 2 if necessary. Most of the time, you're actually just going to target one of your fetch lands and sack your fetch land in response. So it is kind of the same thing as a Fulminator Mage, except it works a little bit better with Jace, Dark Dwellers, and Snapcaster than Fulminator would. You can K-Command a Fulminator, but it is very slow, and you can basically do the same thing by K-Commanding a Dark Dwellers or Snapcaster Mage, so I think Boom Bust is pretty nice. We have Peace Strider, which basically overperformed last week. This is kind of like my nod to Burn, and also blocks Etch Champion, so that's kind of cool. Explosives is kind of a mainstay in my sideboard just as a random catch-all. Same with Staticaster. Things like Infect and Affinity, Staticaster is very, very good against. Counter Squalls are basically the same things as the Thoughtseize. You can't really rely on just discard and land destruction. At some point, you need a thing that is going to stop the card that they draw. So I have a couple Counter Squalls to go with the 2 Mana Leaks I already have in the main deck. And then I have a Vandal Blast against Affinity, which is very good with Jaceveren's Prodigy, because you actually cast the card out of the graveyard. You don't flash it back, so you could actually overload. Second Anger of the Gods, which I think is pretty normal and could possibly be main deck. And then I have a Miser's Dispel for Blue Mirrors and for Collected Company core decks. So that's it. This is more of a Jund deck than a Grixis deck, I think, in the way that the games play out. But I do like this overall strategy. We have a bunch of removal, a bunch of card drawing, a bunch of hard-hitting threats. So let's see how we do.